In this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 Instagram Reels ideas that you can take and run with over and over and over again for growing your business and marketing yourself using Instagram Reels. And if you're wondering how to put these ideas into action, I'd also love to invite you to download my 10 free Reels ideas. So these are Reels templates that literally have caption templates, the Reels text box ideas, prompts for you to fill in, that make it very, very easy for you to actually implement what we're going to talk about in this video. So the link will be right below in the description, and now let's go ahead and jump in. The first idea that honestly I think is one of the best ideas and is so relevant when it comes to Instagram Reels nowadays is to simply share your story and to get vulnerable and share about your journey, where you've been, where you are now, how far you've come. I think Instagram Reels, especially now, although educational Reels can still do really, really well, people want to see more of the real, the authentic, your journey. They don't want to just see 3 tips for something anymore. They also want to see you and learn more about you as a person and for you to inspire them. And one of the best ways to do that is to share your story. So I'm gonna put an example of a reel on the screen right now that is a really simple reel that I created, simply sharing like where I am now with my business and how it's allowed my husband to quit his job to be at home full time with us, and basically just inspire my audience with our story and like where we are and how grateful I am for the life that we get to live. And so something along those lines. It can be literally anything that relates to your niche, to your business, anything that also helps to build your credibility in what you're doing can be really helpful when it comes to coming up with ideas for reels that can be super impactful for you. Okay, and then the next idea is to simply share a transformation that your ideal client is desiring, and then how you can help them with that transformation. Ideally, the way that you help them is your paid offer or a freebie that you have so that it leads to sales for you, right? And so I'm gonna put an example on the screen right here of a reel that I created that says, when you finally figure out simple email automations to make income and see consistent sales come in daily. So that is the desire that my audience, being a business educator, they are desiring that essentially passive income, right? To figure out email marketing, how they can use it to drive sales in their business without having to show up every single day and it's just showing up for them. And so I have a class, a free email class, where they can watch and learn more about how to do that to make income with email marketing. And so that's where I just really backtracked of like, okay, I want to share about this email class. How can I think about what's the desire that they want? What's the transformation they want? At the end of the day, like what's the thing that they want to achieve, and how can I put that into a real format? And so this is kind of like from a point of view perspective of like when you finally figure out XYZ and you're basically saying like, I figured it out, let me show you how now. That's kind of the idea behind this and what you want to be thinking about when you're creating these types of reels. The third reel idea is to give tips for your ideal client. So like I mentioned earlier, educational reels can still be very impactful. I would say just take it a little bit deeper. Don't be afraid to get a little bit more nitty gritty or advanced with the tips you're giving, especially thinking about on Instagram Reels nowadays. It is flooded with so many different people trying to create content in your same niche. And so how can you make your content stand out with tips that maybe they've never really heard about before, or that they don't see floating around on Instagram all of the time? And so one reel that did pretty well for me recently is with my audience is a reel that I'll pop on the screen right here. And that is 5 ways to get people off social media and onto your website. And I gave 5 tips within the reel, and then I decided to give 3 more advanced tips in the caption of the reel. And this resonated pretty well with my audience. And I think the reason why is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I actually got this idea from doing an audience survey. So this was something that people were asking me and saying, how do I get people off social media and onto my website? Like that was a question that was asked over and over, surprisingly, and I had never thought about teaching that before. So that's where audience surveys can be really helpful in market research and seeing like what people are actually wanting. And I think it's something that it's a tip, an idea, an educational like value add that they're not seeing on Instagram all the time. Like people aren't talking about all the time ways to get people off social media and onto your website, right? And so I think that's why it resonated really well and worked really well for my account. So just thinking about like how you can give tips for your specific ideal client, make sure it aligns with your niche so it's attracting the right people, and how can you make that a little bit unique in the sea of what's going on Instagram? The next idea for your Instagram Reels, and this is honestly one we use all of the time. It's also one that's easier for a team to help you create these types of Reels if you want to, and that is to simply share one of your freebies or paid offers directly in the Reel and like why they should want it, right? And kind of list out like what it is. So I'm gonna put a Reel on the screen right now. Was a very simple Reel that I created, and it said, "Are you ready for the free content planning challenge?" And then I literally listed day 1 is going to be about this, day 2 is about this, day 3 is about this, and then the call to action was comment challenge to register now, and that will automatically DM them a link to sign up for the free challenge. And if you're now wondering, okay, well, how do you do that? How do you send them a link without having to manually do it for every person who comments? I have a tutorial on my channel about how to use ManyChat. That is the program behind how to do that. So we will link that down in the description if you're interested in watching that next. Highly recommend it because it is one of the best ways to see conversions on Instagram. But regardless, this idea is essentially looking at like, what are your list of freebies, your free events, whether it is downloads, webinars, templates, challenges, whatever it is that you want to basically give to your audience for free to build your email list, or that are directly linked to paid marketing funnels that you have set up. That's what you want to be thinking about. So think about what those things are and then backtrack from there. Okay, what do I need to share in this Reel that basically just tells them like, do you want this? Here's how you get it, kind of thing. It's very simple, but very effective. We've seen it work really well in Reels. Okay, and then the next idea is to share like a startling fact or misconception that your ideal client has that they really shouldn't have, and basically why you don't believe it's true. So essentially this is like kind of sharing your unpopular opinion on things and things that maybe your ideal client is thinking to themselves like, oh, I could never do this, or oh, this takes too much time, or oh, this is going to be too hard, right? And thinking about how can you break that misconception in a Reel, and how can you say, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, here's how I do it and how it's different, or how I actually see results from this, right? Or whatever it is for your business and the types of paid offers that you have. So I'm going to put an example of that on the screen right here. This is a Reel I created that the text on the screen says, when business owners tell me they would rather spend 4+ hours a week on Instagram instead of 4 hours a month on YouTube. So this is kind of breaking that misconception of people thinking YouTube is going to take them way more time, it's not going to be worth their time, and they should stick to something like Instagram instead. And for me, it is in a roundabout way breaking that misconception that YouTube has to be like a part-time job or full-time job in order to make it effective for your marketing, but it really doesn't have to, right? And so just thinking about what are those things that your specific ideal client is thinking about, how can you kind of break those misconceptions in the context of an Instagram Reel? This is something that if you're a student in my Reels mini course, I have talked about this for years, ever since I started teaching on Reels all the way back in 2020, which is like 4 years ago now, which is crazy. This is something I've done from the beginning that has worked really well. And I think the reason why it works well is because it's a little bit like, it can be polarizing in a way, but in a good way. Like, it doesn't have to be, this huge, like, unpopular opinion that's gonna get a lot of interaction in the comments. It can be just as simple as like something that people are believing that just simply isn't true. That you can take a stand for yourself and be like, no, this isn't true. Here's why. Here are the results I've had. Here's the results my customers have had. And as a result, well, I guess not as a result of that, but here's basically proof that this misconception is not true, and here's how I can help you instead. Like in this Reel example I just gave, the caption is where we then encourage people to watch my free YouTube class. So that is a class that teaches them how to do YouTube and basically giving them that solution. If you're ready to get some specifics on how to implement these ideas into your Instagram Reels, be sure to download that 10 free Reels ideas I mentioned earlier. That's basically Reels templates where you can plug and play, drop in whatever, however it makes sense for your specific business, and you're able to instantly start creating Reels for your business. So we'll have that link right below in the description. It'll be in the first line of the description, so it's super easy for you to find, and you're able to snag those and start running with it right away. And if you have any questions about Instagram Reels strategy, anything I talked about in this video, feel free to drop a comment below. We're always here for you guys. We regularly check our comments, so if you have any follow-up questions and you've commented before, chances are you know that we respond to a lot of our comments. So be sure to be commenting anything that you're wondering, and I'll see you guys again next week's video. Bye guys.